Yeah, looking forward to this little chat. It'll be good to sort of hear your opinions, because it's great because you're 16 years old, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I'm 16 years old and I've been dedicating my past 6 years of life researching on animals and plants.
Which is incredible, because it's not very often that you get young people such as yourself doing research, as you sort of say, from such a young age. I mean, you've been doing it since you were 10 years old in that case. I mean, I started doing research probably when I was about 18, 19. I mean, I've loved animals all my life, but actual research I didn't start till, well, only a few years ago. So it's, if anything, you're the expert here, and I'm the one who's going to be learning probably a thing or two from you today, because you've got a lot more experience than I have, which is incredible.
Because actually, this question was asked to me many times, especially my classmates. They're like, because it's usually like in the field of desert animals and usually like UA animals or oceans that I've been researching on. So they're like, you get stung by such bees or like stung by sea urchins. Why don't you hate them? I said, because we depend on them, and that's the main thing. So I'm also asked the same question. I'm like, see, all of the people on my age that are on video games or on cars, well, because the natural world is full of mysteries, and we have to take care of it. That's the only thing which we have to learn within these. Because what we saw the last 10 years, we can say that we don't see those animals anymore in such populations, and most of which have gone extinct right now.
100%. And actually, the question I want to ask you is, how did you get into it at such a young age? Because I think the reason that a lot of people, as you say, like to play video games and stuff like that, is not necessarily because they don't have a passion for wildlife and a passion for the environment. It's more they don't have access to it or easy access to it. So I actually want to know from you, how did you get involved in it, and how did you start doing research at such a young age?
Actually, I guess when I was around 8 years old, I used to go to this beach near to my house. There was all these juvenile fishes and crustaceans going over there. So since then, I used to catch them and bring them home and preserve them once they die. So since that a very small age, I used to love animals. And then from them, I saw that, okay, because I saw that slowly within the years of passing, those juvenile fishes from at least the numbers of 20s, they're reducing to the numbers of at least 10 or 9, or even disappearing in that particular month, which they used to be in their great millions. And then I saw many changes, especially this year as well. I took one of my friends to a park near to my house. I said that, just look, here we have got a Rhinoceros Beetle. And we saw that during the past few years of me collecting all these Rhinoceros Beetle specimens, their horns have greatly reduced in size. Some of them don't have even horns at all or hardly have any. And so we thought that even the soil, the soil fertility is going down. So I thought like spreading the awareness, because I used to love wildlife and all these from the very young age. But then I thought like, okay, and of course the main inspiration for me was actually David Attenborough's documentaries. He used to give us such extraordinary detail of the natural world. And so that was actually which led me into this.
100%. And again, it's having those sort of icons, as well as your experience in the field of seeing that decline of populations of different animals, which makes you go, what can I do to help? It's also then reinforced when you have amazing people such as Sir David Attenborough, Steve-O, and all those sort of people that used to be out there in the field telling us and giving us that story and giving us the information that we don't necessarily have ourselves. I mean, the normal average day person probably won't go out into South Africa or go to Brazil or go to the Arctic. It's very hard to get to for your average everyday person if you're not actively looking for it. So to be given that information for free, right to your doorstep, to have such a big impact on you is incredible. And it is people like David Attenborough and your own personal experiences that reinforce that, which is why it's incredible to see that you started at such a young age. And it's great to see what things impact you, because how can we then use that information and that sort of knowledge to then impact others? Which I bet if we saw lots of other people that had a passion for wildlife, same age as you, see the same problems and see the same reductions in population that you did, we'd probably have a lot more people your age being able to come up and get involved. And
yes, because all of us actually love the natural world, whether it's my students in my age or people of your age or even the older, we all love the natural world, and whether it's going to parks for a camp or whether going to a riverside, countryside, because we are all dependent on the natural world. But the main thing is that in the past few years, we have lost that knowledge of dependency. So we say, okay, we are living in cities. We no more see birds. We no more see insects. So we are not dependent on it. But the main thing is, in very unexpected places, even I have opened many of my friends' eyes. I've said in many unexpected places, under your sofa, even near to your maybe parking, there is some life exists. Whether it's a cellar spider or whether it's beetles, but life exists. That's the knowledge which, the inspiration people have lost, that okay, we are connected to nature and we have to protect it. And they see nature as a resource which they can use, not as something which they depend on.
Oh, 100%. And actually it was brought up in one of the documentaries that I worked on, which how we have a disconnect from our food, which disconnects us from nature. And because we don't necessarily understand where our food comes from, we then don't understand how it is affected by nature. And it was really interesting learning at how if we can change our opinions on food and how we sort of are more sustainable with what we eat and go from sort of more organic and sort of locally grown produce, you'll find actually that nature has had a huge impact on creating that food. One of the best examples was it was called carbon neutral beef. And as everyone knows, the cattle industry and the beef industry does produce a lot of sort of CO2 and has a lot of problems with climate change, a lot of deforestation. There's lots of negatives, especially in the mass production side of things. You scale that back, and this guy's proved that he can actually be carbon neutral, and he actually thinks in the next 5 years he'll be carbon negative with producing beef. So he'll be taking more carbon out of the atmosphere than he'll be putting in. And that's literally because he uses his herd and he uses sort of local herbs, local legumes. He uses the natural environment, natural waste, and he uses a closed cycle herd and uses nature to help fertilize the soil and look after a really healthy soil. He's able to produce high quality beef and take more carbon out the and is going towards taking more carbon out of the atmosphere than he'll ever put in, which is incredible.
Yes, exactly.
It does
prove
so
Adam, of course, you have been in the field much more than myself. So what do you think, what are, in your own eyes, in the past, I don't know, your childhood, have you seen a decline in the population of wild animals or plants in the UK?
I'd like to. I think it's a bit of yes and no, because there's certain times that I've gone out and I used to see loads of like when I was so you go through stages. So when I was younger, I remember never seeing a red kite in the sky, and they just didn't live around me. And then as I got a bit older, they started being reintroduced a bit more. They started to come back, and you could see a big difference. Now, most of my research has actually been abroad. So the UK wise, I'm not the best person to talk about, but from what I've learned from other people, from Instagram, social networking and discussions is yes, there has been a big impact in the UK of population loss. But at the same time, there's also lots of positives to come out of it, that there are a lot of those reintroductions that programs have started, and we're quite heavily sort of investing into them and bringing a lot back. I mean, one of the best success stories at the moment is the...
Yes, absolutely correct. And talking about the meat industry, as you said, mentioned earlier, but even, it has health impacts on ourselves as well. The unsaturated oil, which is fat, which is there, affects our health as well. So we have to, at least reduce or remove meat from our diet, because a lot of, deforestation is happening at the same time for the same purpose as well.
See, for me personally, I actually think if we work on a balanced, sustainable diet, so you don't have to have meat every single day. It's the whole point. And the key thing that everyone says is the meat industry has become unsustainable. And for me, that's just because we're overeating it. Now, if you go back to when we used to, for me personally, when we used to sort of be subsistence farmers and we didn't have easy access to food and we didn't have to just walk down to the supermarket. You may have a cow once a year, or you may have a cow once every couple of months. And you'd eat bits of it. You wouldn't eat the whole thing in one go. You wouldn't have the choices of the best cut. You'd utilize everything within that animal. And that's where I think the problem is nowadays, for me personally, is that you can still eat meat, in my opinion, but it's got to be sustainable. So have a meat-free Monday. Maybe just instead of having a brand new beef burger, get one that's reduced. Because if you're using the stuff that's about to go to waste, you're not then having to buy fresh stuff that's then speeding up the process. It's the whole sort of sustainability of working together for me, and being sustainable in how you eat. I mean, my best example, my favorite example of talking about anything when it comes to being sustainable or trying to make an impact is one person can't make a huge change, okay, personally. Okay, if one person turns up and says, I'm going to stop eating all meat altogether, okay, just for argument's sake, it's not going to make a huge impact if everyone does it. But as of this morning, I looked it up, there's 7.8 billion people on this world, okay? If one person, if every single one of those people decided to cut out meat for one day of the week, that's 7.8 billion pieces of meat that's been stopped on that one day, assuming everyone eats meat every day. And you sort of scale that up, and it can make a huge impact.
Exactly, yeah.
And I think that's the thing that people don't understand, is you don't have to make a radical change of your whole lifestyle to make an impact. The other best example I love to give is 1%ers. And I always use it from a rugby point of view, because that's where I learned it from. It's an All Blacks theory of sort of learning and working together as a team. And you could go out onto a field, okay, and you could spend 100% of your time working on your kicking game, for example, okay? And your kicking game will be the best it's ever been. But if you don't work on everything else at the same time, you may be the best kicker in the world, but chances are you won't be the best at everything else, and your rest of your game will struggle. But if you spend 25% of your time, or if you spend 1% on kicking, 1% on your food, 1% on looking after the rest of your team, and all those 1% build up to create a better 100% whole picture. I think that's the same with everyone else. If you could turn around and change one piece of plastic, take one piece of non-reusable plastic out of your lifestyle, that's a great difference. Even if it's just using single-use straws and getting rid of those, but using everything else, it's better than nothing, in my opinion.
Yes, exactly correct. Yeah. Because actually, the inspiration is there. Like, if I take action, there are many of my friends which look up to me and take the same action as well. So the inspiration is matters. But then, like most people are saying, I take action alone won't make an impact. But then if that one person takes action, inspire others to do so, then we have got a ripple effect that, snowballs into something enormous. But Anna, what do you think about plastic pollution?
I mean, there's no doubt there's a lot about it, and there's no doubt that it's a huge problem out there. I mean, without sounding contradictory, plastic's probably one of the best products we've ever made. You can't deny that. It's robust. It's long living. Like, it's an incredible product. But the way, again, we use it is not sustainable, and the way that we recycle and try and reuse it doesn't work at the moment. We need to find a way to work it sustainably so that we can all enjoy it and still use this a very good product, but not destroy our ecosystem, our environment at the same time. I mean, I've done it in the past where I've come back and I've had like a Chinese takeaway, and they come in little plastic pots. Instead of throwing that in the bin, I wash it out and I reuse it. And literally our cupboards are stacked with pots because we don't want to throw them out. We'll reuse them. Even stuff that so I go and do beach cleans every so often. And instead of throwing stuff in the bin, I try and make art out of it. I mean, one of the things I'm working on the moment is I'm literally getting all the rope and string and stuff, and I tie it all together and I try and make little braids and do a little bit of art out of it. I try and reuse as much of the stuff that is going to sort of sit there and not do anything for the rest of its life now that it's been thrown away. Let's try and make something out of it. But there is a big problem with it. And I think the way that we live, I mean, my favorite example was one of my friends sent me a video of, he went to a supermarket once and he went to buy an avocado. So an avocado is what? Yay big sort of size. You can have it loose. It doesn't really need to be packaged up. But this avocado was vacuum packed in a plastic bag. And it's like, where's the need? What's it going to do? Prolong its life by a couple of days, maybe? I mean, it's not going to do much to it. It was sort of a pointless packaging. And that's the other thing. That's the other thing for me, really, is pointless packaging. You order something off the internet. I mean, again, my other favorite example, my ex-girlfriend at the time bought herself a lipstick, which was like this big. And it came in a box as about this big. Like it was a big box. It's just for a tiny lipstick. It had like plastic wrapping around the edge of it. It had sort of it's polystyrene sort of stuff to keep it safe, just because she spent a lot of money on a lipstick. Which is incredible. Where's the
Yeah,
need for
the
that?
amount of plastic we use in our daily lives is just and we think, okay, I cannot live without plastic, and that's the main problem that we are facing. And the main point is that if we throw it away, we should know that it doesn't go away. It returns to us, whether it's in the fish we eat or in some other way. And in the past years, which I've been collecting different animals for showing it to different people. Because as we know that juvenile fish are much weaker than the adult ones because of their immune systems and the food they eat, so they live faster. So like seeing huge fishes in their at least 10 or 20s dying ashore is really an impact. Huge of them and then I was saying to myself that, but we can stop. Like if for example during the pandemic, we can say we never used masks even when we got a flu, when we got used to that life cycle fast. So if at least if the government sets laws, for example, okay, stop plastics once a week, don't use plastic at least once a week, maybe we are led to an extraordinary future, we can say.
Well, and as you say, I'd like to see the stats, because when plastic straws was such a major thing in that video of the turtle came out with the straw out of its nose, everyone stopped using plastic straws and they sort of fell out of the news. There's never really any sort of, oh, we found straws on our beach again, we found this, we found that. There's no big thing about it. So has that changed the problem because they've cancelled it, or has it now been ignored because they think, oh, we've done enough, we don't need to talk about it anymore? I don't know, because there's no information out there anymore. It's the same. It'll be the same with these masks. I mean, these masks are now everywhere in the ocean, and they're the big thing at the moment. So once COVID hopefully clears up and we don't have to use masks anymore, is it still going to be an issue? Is there still going to be people talking about it? Because people still use masks, they still get thrown away. But is it because we've got lazy as a population that instead of where they're thrown away properly in like medical situations or people that use them daily and they dispose them properly, is it because we just get lazy, which is why they end up in the oceans and in the environment? Or is it actually it's just because it's in the news at the moment and everyone's using them that people have gone, actually, I don't think it's a good idea, let's now promote or tell everyone about all the negatives that have come with it, even though it's been a problem for years, and it will be a problem for years. We don't know. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens after all this sort of died down and quietened up a little bit.
Yes, exactly. It's dramatic to see such problems happening in the oceans, on land, and in different areas of the environmental situations. Then I was actually speaking to Sir Robert Swan on Wednesday. We had a meeting with him with other Abu Dhabi Environmental Agency team, and he was saying about how we can inspire students and children such as my age. And he was saying that the main important is that they have to be taken to the field of oceans, for example, or the Arctic, which he's mostly into. And then he's like, if they see the changes, they'll take action. Because until we don't see, we won't believe. And for example, the documentary which I'm desperately trying to get time to work on, Earth, Our Living Planet, will include all these problems and what we can do to save it, as well as it'll include different people. I've got some students a part of it, some children, as well as anyone who's able to join. And so it's an eye-opening. We have to say that, okay, the natural world is beautiful, yet it is vital for our very survival and what we need. But I don't know, what do you think that, for example, we can do as individuals, small steps which we can take to help save at least a bit of the natural world, or at least save the natural world itself?
I mean, again, I'll come back to is the whole 1%ers side of things. Is even if you let's like crisps and crisp packets. I mean, I love crisps. They're great food, but again, you can't really recycle their wrappers. So instead of having a packet of crisps every day, maybe have one or two a week. It's those little things that you can do to help alter your lifestyle. Again, instead of all driving to work in your own individual cars, car share. I mean, my dad and I do that. He starts work a bit earlier than me during the week, so I drive him in, and then instead of him driving back, Mum picks him up and drives him back. So we try and counteract our our carbon dioxide emissions by sharing at least one lift a day. Now, every little helps. For me personally, you can't change the world by drastically altering your lifestyle, because there will be a knock-on effect. If you suddenly stop doing something, there will be consequences, in my opinion. If like, so let's say you cut, everyone in the world cuts out meat today, there will be a knock-on effect of that. What are you going to do with the cattle that you've already got? What are you going to do with the crops that you've already got? There's going to be a knock-on effect at some point. So for me, it's phasing things out slowly enough that you can then find the balance. Because again, the whole world is a set of scales. You've got less. Again, let's take the meat industry. You've got beef production on this side, and you've got vegans and vegetarians on this side. If you suddenly take out the meat, it will drop and counteract, and there will be a consequence for that. You'll have to find a way to sort of balance up the scales so that everyone can be happy, and you can have the best situation for everyone that'll be sustainable for the environment as well as us as a population. Whether that's to do with food production, whether that's to do with plastic production, whether that's to do with fashion, there's so many industries that have got pros and cons to everything that goes about it. You've got to find a balance. In my opinion, you can never please everyone, but everyone can find the level that they're happy to work with, that we can then build on and improve as we go along through time. And I think I personally don't think we've gone past the point of no return. I think we're very close to getting to it, but I think we've got to a point, and we're starting to realize it now, or at least the younger generation, such as yourself, that are coming up in the world, showing their passion, showing their love for wildlife, showing how much that they want to help and change. It's you guys, the younger generation, and myself included, that are going to make that impact. We're the ones that, I mean, I've actually known more friends that have changed their parents' opinions on things than their parents have changed theirs. They always say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but that's not true. You can. I mean, I at home, over the first lockdown, my family and I, it was me that was driving the whole, I want to build a vegetable garden, I want to build a compost, let's try this, let's do that. And actually, then my parents started to get involved with it. They loved it. And then actually they started to come up with their own ideas of things we could cut back. So it's working together and slowly working things into your day-to-day normality, in my opinion, that will do the most. Now, even if that means, so as you say, you want to know what we can do as a population to change things. Even if it's go outside and spend 5 minutes in nature, or you turn off your computer for 5 more minutes, that allows you to sort of cut back on your sort of electricity usage. Even if you watch one documentary that impacts you, those little things that you can do will have a great impact in what you do throughout the rest of your life, in my opinion. And as you say, you mentioned about getting people into the field. It can be very difficult to get people into, I mean, the Antarctic's a beautiful place, but to get there is very, very difficult.
Yeah, correct, absolutely correct.
But if you can create a documentary to then virtually bring people to those areas, you'll have an impact. I mean, one of the guys I know did a virtual tour of Madagascar. So he partnered up with a research site that had been with out there, and they basically went out during the day and night and recorded a lot of the herps that they could find in Madagascar. And then they created a video and took us on a tour of it. So they did a live viewing of it, and they went, so guys, we're going to walk through the jungle, and we found a panther chameleon or something like that. And then they explained about the biology of it. And I was sat there for a good hour just going, wow, that's incredible. I've never been to Madagascar. I've never seen these guys in wild, but now I feel like I have. So what can I now do to help that? And it's in my opinion, what a lot of people have learned over lockdown is you can make an impact even from a distance. And I found that really fascinating.
Yeah, it is true, because like if one takes action, the same way we can say that polar bears in the Arctic are somehow linked with us. We are also, if we take action, we are also linked with them in many different ways. And it is truly fascinating, because like once given the chance, the natural world can recover in amazing ways. And like there is some misconceptions, like facts about all these animals and plants that is actually that are able to actually fear from them. For example, when I was first going and researching, for example, recently on beetles and earwigs, when I brought the earwig home to just observe for around a week or so, my parents saying that these earwigs go in ears and all this, and I said the name suggests earwigs, but they never go into ears. The same way goes for beetles as well, because I saw actually that, for example, earwigs, can recover in amazing ways if you take care of them properly. And the same thing goes for different species of beetles as well. And the main thing is to get yourself close to nature. It's because if we get the chance, nature of course comes to us. Because for example, in almost unexpected places, one of my friends, Jan, is here. I took him to a park near to my house where it was, I can say, of a barren place. And I took him at night. And then he saw different species, from wolf spiders to geckos, all the way to beetles. And he was amazed. He's like, I never expected to see such a diversity of life over here. But then, like, because we don't know that they exist, we are destroying them. And we are facing the consequences in many different ways. And whether because people are actually too much into their devices. So most of them won't give the time in cool weathers to actually go, for example, to a park or any nature reserve, to go camping, to be with the family. So that connectivity, if it actually would broke, it will actually give us a health benefit, as well as will give the nature a benefit as well.
Oh, 100%. And actually, it's been proven that to help with your mental health, if you spend at least 5 minutes outside in nature a day, even if you just sit on a garden bench and you just sort of enjoy what's going on outside, it does have a massive impact on your mental health, and it's incredible. But the other thing I also want to touch on is it's the fake news that gets spread around as well that has an impact. But they may think they're doing something positive, but actually they're doing the complete opposite. I mean, the weirdest example, and probably one of the well, not maybe the worst, but a very bad example was a video I saw on Instagram, okay, and it had something like 100,000 views and it had something like 50,000 likes, and it was a video of a guy holding a rabbit, and the rabbit had baby rabbits hanging off it. But not only would it have baby rabbits hanging off it, he also then had hundreds more that he was then pushing out from underneath, and saying that this rabbit was giving birth to all these baby rabbits at this moment in time and making it look like a conveyor belt. And you could see his arm pushing them out from underneath, and yet people were commenting, "Oh my God, this is so cute. Oh my God, so much respect to Mama Rabbit for giving birth to all these babies. Oh my God, I wish my rabbit could give birth to all these babies. I'd love to have more." And it's like, no, that's not real. That doesn't happen. It's the same with when people do trick photography. I mean, there's a few photos that go around of, I think there's a picture of a turtle with a frog and then a snail on top. That doesn't happen. That's someone that stuck those animals into those positions, and they're either dead or they're alive and glued into position, and they've taken some photos of it, or they've just taken individual animals differently and they've just photoshopped it together, because that doesn't happen in the wild. Now, a frog may sit on a turtle, but the species of frog and then a snail on top, it doesn't. So people see all these examples out there and think that's the natural world, and it's not. And the problem is if you report that to Instagram, they don't believe that's a violation of their community guidelines, because they again don't have the information that we have to know. They just see the picture, they go through the algorithm, so you can't. It's hard to blame them for it. It's a hard thing to do. But a lot of people share it. I mean, I saw this one photo go by all the big accounts like Animal Planet, Discovery, all these big places were resharing it. It's like, guys, come on, it's fake. You can't be promoting this. This isn't the natural world. And that's the other sort of, I think social media has a massive impact, as we said earlier, about connecting people to the environment, whether it's through little documentaries, whether it's through a photo. You have so many ways of connecting people, and it has a very positive thing, but at the same time can be very negative. I mean, if it wasn't for social media, we wouldn't be having this discussion. If it wasn't for social media, we wouldn't be able to see a lot of the wildlife that we see and learn a lot of the facts we see. I mean, I've learned so much through social media, especially about British wildlife, because most of my research is in South Africa. So my British knowledge isn't very good, but I've learned a lot more because of it, and I've been inspired to. I mean, I wouldn't normally go out and look for fungi, but one of my friends is very passionate about it. Her passion's rubbed off on me, and now I go out and look for them. It's the same. I mean, my big passion is mammals, and then birds of prey. But actually, I never really thought of sort of herps and spiders and stuff like that. But whenever I go out to the field now, I always go, oh, you know what? Let's have a look under this rock and see what I can find, or let's have a look in this crevice. And then when you find something, you're there like, oh my God, that's incredible! I've never seen this before. I've never learned about this. What is this? And I then run back and I go look it up in my book. So there is a big impact that being in the field can have on you, but Instagram and social media can also have a very positive effect.
Because yeah, it's actually amazing, because the main thing which I love about the natural world is always its mysteries. You may go to a place that you have been researching on for 4 years, but then again you go and find a different animal over there. And then, yeah, I also agree with the misinformation of especially photography as well. Especially, I think the most thing is the fear which it was increased by sulfugates, camel spiders, which the person came and brought up to the camera to show that it's very big. But I saw one recently in front of me, and it's very small yet very, very scary and a very fast creature. The same thing goes, for example, the research. 4 years you go there, you research, but then again, recently when I went to that same place, I'm like, I found a hedgehog. So I'm like, I didn't expect hedgehogs to be there because it's actually a very dry area and you can only find gazelles. But it's amazing because if once we get close to nature, nature is going to come 10 steps towards us. And then because we are going to enjoy it, because those who have spent the field in nature, they're like, okay, I'm not going to get disconnected from it. Like one day sitting in home, you will feel, okay, I feel strange. Let me at least see one documentary, see at least let me go in my garden, and that's very important. And especially even the planting.
Yeah. Oh,
even planting different trees, because we eat oranges, we eat mangoes, avocados. If we plant those, of course, there'll be trees. Native plants attract native wildlife.
I think the key point when it comes to planting stuff is keeping it as native as possible. Like if you want wildlife to come into your garden, plant native plants. Don't bring in some. I mean, okay, it probably won't work, but there's no point us bringing across an oak tree to the UAE because one, it may not survive, but two, it's completely different to the plants you've got there. Wildlife won't live off it. So if you want to bring wildlife into your garden, go as native as possible. And actually, there's nothing wrong with adding a few extra flowers. It looks nice, and you get some cool insects and invertebrates that come with it. So the thing with wildlife is there aren't many negatives that come with them. There's lots of positives that come with them. I mean, there's always going to be negatives with everything you do, but there's a lot more positive, in my opinion, that outweigh the negatives. I mean, we planted runner beans this year, and we had hundreds of bees come to our plants, and we had so much so many runner beans come from it. Like we literally had probably close to 300 to 500 individual runner beans grow off these plants, which is our first time ever growing it. But we had so much like bees, butterflies. I mean, I found spiders on there. I found so much stuff pollinating and looking after that one crop, that actually we got a huge crop out of it ourselves that we were able to enjoy and share with our family and friends. So by bringing in wildlife into our garden, one, we've enjoyed it a lot more and had a great time out in the garden and heard a lot more of a buzz. But two, we've got a lot out of it as well. Like we've got crops, we've got enjoyment, we've got all sorts of, I mean, my garden biodiversity was incredible this year. I mean, it's the first year in my house, so I don't know, my new house, I don't know if it's any different, but we'll have a look next year and we'll see if we can up it even more. It's great. It really, really is.
Yeah, it's amazing because I live in an apartment, so I cannot plant trees, but I have many plants down there. And the main thing is people need to understand that if we take action, we can save wildlife. Like, for example, in the UAE, let's take an example of the Arabian oryx. Around a few years ago, it was partially extinct in the wild, but now their numbers are rising. Same thing goes for the whales. They were being hunted towards extinction. Or, for example, the mountain gorillas, we can say. But that's exactly the thing. If we take care, if we fix our ways in a more sustainable future, we can actually take action. But I think the most difficult thing is to inspire people to do so. So, Adam, what do you think we can do to inspire, the different people from the younger generation to the eldest?
I mean, I think it's what we do at the moment. It's act as ambassadors. I mean, for yourself, you're a young guy, you're 16 years old, you've got 6 years of experience of doing research, and you do lots of important work. That in itself will inspire another group, another generation. It'll inspire more people your age to see, actually, it is accessible to get into it. I mean, I say, you're probably the youngest person I know of that does research and gets out in the field. There aren't many people that young. I mean, there's people out there that do things. To anyone watching, I do apologize, but my own personal knowledge of actually knowing people that do it, you're one of the youngest I probably have ever met. So it's finding the little things to do to inspire it, and it's showing that it's accessible to everyone. You say you live in an apartment, you can do hanging baskets out of your window. You can still do little things here, there and everywhere around your apartment that actually you can bring nature closer into you. So there's no limitations when it comes to that, and that's the thing that I think everyone doesn't understand, and that's how we inspire, is by showing that no matter where you are, no matter how rich or poor you are, no matter what your ethnic background, no matter where you live, what you do for a living, you can make an impact. And you can do things sustainably. You can invite nature into your home. You can work as a group. I mean, I've met people from different age groups, different backgrounds, different like all sorts of different things, but we all have one common goal, and that's because we love wildlife and want to save it. And it's that one common goal that will inspire and bring everyone together. You can make documentaries, you can do things, but if you lead from the front and you show that I'm going to make this change myself, other people will follow. Now, it may not be in the millions, but if you can make one person follow you and change, that's a win in my book, because that one person will bring on another person, who may bring on another person, and that's where you have the knock-on effect. And actually, people follow the herd. If you start off by yourself and you stay strong from the start and you work hard from the start, and another person joins you, and then another, and eventually more people start to bring in. It's that pyramid effect of it always sort of breaks down and gets wider and wider at the peak. And that's what we can do as people to inspire, is lead from the front and take charge and show anyone can do it.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, because people think that I take action myself won't help the environment, and most of them think that why should I help the environment? I don't get anything from it. But they don't know that's what they don't know the understanding, because until we don't understand how the natural world works, how do we depend on it, we cannot take action.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I think personally, I think zoos have a place in the world. Personally, I think they have an importance. I mean, the ones in the UK are really good because the majority of their efforts go towards conservation, and I think that's where, as much as it's, I'd much rather see an animal in the wild. I think if you can use zoos in a positive mindset and they're done correctly and they're done ethically and their money does go back towards conservation, not profits, then I think it's great that we can get people in there to see these animals. And actually, that's where I started off. My love for wildlife actually was at zoos. When I was younger, my mum used to tell me a story. We're walking around this zoo, and it's a place called Marwell in the UK. Really lovely place. I've been there for years. And I was 3 years old. So bear this in mind, I'm a 3-year-old walking around the zoo, and a lady was standing there, and she goes to her kids, "Oh, hey guys, look at the kangaroos over there." And apparently, me at 3 years old walked up to her, pulled on her shirt and goes, "They're not kangaroos, they're wallabies." And then just sort of carried on walking my way because I corrected her misidentification. And that's the 3-year-old doing that, which is incredible. And I think as much as some places aren't the best, and there's definitely examples of zoos of how not to work with the zoo. And I think that's where people need to do their research. And again, it's whether it comes to sanctuaries, zoos, anything that houses wildlife, you should do your background research before just sort of turning up, because there are good zoos and there are bad zoos. But if you can inspire young people at home from a young age to go into these places and go, "Oh, that's really cool, I want to learn more about that," and you can give talks and you can give experience that will last a lifetime. I mean, I still remember stuff from when I was even younger, about going to sort of seeing wildlife in the zoos for the first time. And I mean, don't get me wrong, back then, the one that always stuck with me was the snow leopard enclosure. It wasn't like a snow leopard would live in the wild. It was quite small, and it always stuck with me that. But actually, over the years, it got bigger, it improved, it got better, and I remember that. Because people have learned over time on how to zoo properly, and how to utilize it. I mean, if it wasn't for zoos, we wouldn't have the black-footed ferret. We wouldn't have Arabian oryx. And actually, I think it was Marwell was one of the zoos that forefronted that rescue program. And actually, a lot of these zoos do have a positive impact. And I think actually, you start people off young by giving them an entry place, such as zoos. You'll then find the next David Attenborough because of it.
Yeah, that's true. There are bad zoos and good zoos, but then like most of them actually spread very important messages that okay, most of them even do conservation works. But then we have to, people have to get inspired from even to volunteer for these things. Go one day the weekend, go at least clean the enclosure. That's at least one of the ways they can do. And I think that the respect for nature is also lacking. For example, people drive on roads, they see for example, we can see they see a small bird and then just go and then they just hit it, and that's one of the dramatic things. For example, one of the birds I've got here, it's a common pheasant. It was hit by a car around 2 years back, I think. It was, yeah, correct, around, I can say not even 2, at least 1.5 years back. It's really dramatic. So it's now being used for awareness. And it's really sad that such things are happening. But what about like you? How do you, for example, if there is one of your friends, how would you inspire, for example, your friend who is totally negative about wildlife?
I think for me, it's coming at a gentle approach. It's not sort of shoving it down their throat. It's not me sort of telling them how to live and actually their opinions are wrong. It's sort of finding a way to subtly sneak it into their world whilst making them aware of it, but not that I'm forcing them to do it. So, I mean, there's people out there that I know that aren't fussed with wildlife. They look at it and go, all right, that's all right. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just how that's their opinion on things. But if you can make them appreciate it, even if you can't make them love it, at least you can make them appreciate it and maybe think, okay, we do share our world with this beautiful creature. Let's see what we can do to help. I mean, the best example is sort of snakes and spiders, really. I know loads of people that are terrified of spiders, and whenever they go around their house, they get their vacuum up and they just go and suck them all up. My room's currently full of spiders. I think every corner of my room has a spider in it. Now, that's because I think they have a positive thing in them. People come in and ask why they do that, and I go, well, what would you rather? A spider sat in the corner of your room, or a little bug that comes up to your ear and sort of goes around your ear? Now, we want to invite everything into our environment, but if you can show that actually their food source, which is annoying you, well, then they're more likely to be accepting of it. And I'm not necessarily saying that those little annoying bugs are the worst thing in the world, but if you're trying to help educate someone to do it, you say, well, that's their food source. They need that bug in the world. So it may be annoying you, but actually they're now helping you stop being annoyed. So it's showing how in your day-to-day life, without you even realizing, it's happening around you. As you say, you walk out your front door and you're probably surrounded by more insects than there are in the whole village population, sort of thing. And that's even within like a meter square area of yourself. You've probably got so many, like, thousands of insects of different sizes and types that it's incredible. Or even just wildlife in general. I mean, you'll walk through a field and you may not see the little robin that's jumping over in the side of you. You may not see the pheasant that's hiding in the grass. You may not see it, but it's there. I'm trying to remember the fact that it was something like the moment. I think you will never spend a moment of your life less than a meter away from wildlife or something like that. Some sort of statement someone made like that to me. There'll never be a point in your life that you'll ever be away from it. There'll always be one somewhere, whether you're in a plane, whether you're on a boat, whether you're in the art, there'll always be something around of nature that will be living and breathing and making that little area its home. There'll always be something there. And actually, yes, there's been, is it 5 mass extinctions? And chances are the human race probably won't survive the next one, but something will. And that something will then go on and create a new and improved, hopefully, environment. And everything will be different. I mean, you look at the differences between us, the dinosaurs, the Ice Age, the vast difference between all those things is incredible. I find that fascinating. And there's a lot of stuff nowadays that still live on from those times. Crocodilia, birds. I mean, a chicken is related to a T-Rex, which I think is incredible. And actually, you look at it and you go, how has that evolved to do that? And yeah, as you say, a lot of that stuff is that's how I sort of try and inspire people, is go, well, think about it. Look at this, look at that. I mean, I'm similar to you. I mean, you've got your pheasant there, and I've got all sorts of bits that I found on my travels that when people come round, I go, look at this. Where do you think this is from? And they go, what? I don't know. I'm like, well, that's a porcupine quill, or that's from this, or that's from that. And now, out of my collection, I've probably got a few things that I've been given. I try not to buy anything because you don't always know where it's come from. But everything I found, and that's the thing that fascinates me, is I used to go out and find things. I mean, I used to go out with my nieces and I make a game out of it. I'm like, okay, who could go find a shark's tooth on the beach? Or who can pick up the most plastic? Or who can find the most shells? And they bring it like, oh, Uncle Adam, look at this. And that's how, for me, you start to and change people's opinions. I mean, my older sister is I think she's terrified of snakes or spiders. It's one of the two. But from making her watch documentaries with me, she's grown to appreciate and understand them a little bit better. Now, it may not fully change her opinion on them. She may still be terrified of them, but she actually appreciates the place they have in this world and the importance they have in this world.
Yes, exactly. I also agree from the same thing. One of my friends here who is also with us today, Zayan, I took him around 1 or 2 months back, and he has a fear. He has a fear of spiders, from the very tiny cellar spiders to the wolf spider, we can say. And he has fear. Like around 2 years ago, I gave him a cellar spider to hold, although it was dead. And I took him there. I'm like, you saw that cellar spider, and it was a huge one. That wolf cell was a huge one. So I'm like, I'll hold it first. If I survive, then you hold it then. He's like, okay, just stay alive, you don't get bitten, I'll hold it. And then I held it in my hand, I'm like, see this? And it was running, so I had to hold it, and he was like, okay, don't let it come towards me. And I'm like, okay, no problem. Once I held it around 10 minutes in my hand, I'm like, your turn now, take it. And then he actually was like in half of fear on how to take it. So I kept it in his hand, and then he's like, then after 5 or 8 minutes, he started holding the spider, playing with it. And he was actually amazed. So Zayan, can you tell one of your experiences on what you think of spiders now?
Well, before I was really afraid of spiders. Like, I remember back in my home country, in my grandmother's house, there were many spiders. So I used to get out of the house whenever I saw a spider. I was that scared. But then with Irfan, I went to the park which he mentioned a few weeks or months back. He held the spider and it was my turn to hold it. When I held it, all my fear was just gone. I was like, it's just a spider, it's amazing. I found them fascinating but scary at the same time, but then they seem just fascinating and amazing to me.
Oh, 100%.
Because what happened to him, he only saw the fangs. He didn't see anything else. He only saw the fangs of the spider, and then he was like, okay, the fangs are pretty big. If it bites, I'm like, it's not going to bite you. And then you can hold it in your hand, it's not going to bite you. So you keep calm.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. And actually, I mean, I love looking at spiders. I'm not fussed on them crawling on me. Don't know what it is, but it's not. I'm scared. I know they're not going to bite me. I know they're more scared of me, but it's the sensation of them walking my hand. So that's why I think the importance of being able to educate people. And as you say, the way you did it was very well. You took your time. You didn't pressure him. You didn't force him to do anything. You took, and that's the thing I think people don't understand is some people just sort of go, oh look, here's a snake, hold it, and they just sort of throw it at them, and that's when people then get scared even more. And it's not the right way of doing things. And actually, that's the other thing I'll come on to is there is a right way and a wrong way to handle creatures. And I personally don't think that anyone should just pick up anything. You should always have a little bit of knowledge or be with someone that knows what they're doing. So he was with you who knows what you're doing. So you'd be able to handle that spider correctly. If you had a tarantula in your hand and you dropped it, it could kill it. It could break its exoskeleton, it could kill it. So you've got to be very delicate. And that's the other thing that I think people don't understand is there's a video that goes around recently of a guy that I've seen. He'll go out and he'll find snakes. Great, look for snakes. Let's promote it. Let's be positive. Let's show how cool they are in the world. But he then sees a snake, runs over as fast as he can, jumps on it, grabs it, picks it up by one hand, and sort of throws it and goes, oh, look at this guy. And the snake then bites. And he's there like, oh, it just bit me, it's nothing bad, it's non-venomous, it's not going to hurt me, it's not going to... You're like, wait, hang on a second, whoa, you're now promoting to get bitten by a snake is a good thing. No. Let's dial this back a little bit, mate. You've done this all wrong. Let's observe from a distance to start with. Let's observe their behavior. Now let's slowly make our way in. Now, if you're trying to educate people and you're trying to get them a little bit closer, if you feel it's needed to pick them up and handle them, then be very careful how you do it and do it properly. Don't just grab it and pick it up and throw it around, because it is going to bite you. It's going to scare it. They have two instincts. It's fight or flight. They can't flight, so the only thing they're going to do is fight. So you've got to do it properly and respectfully. And this, yes, the snake non-venomous, he knew what he was doing. Change this around so someone grabs a puff adder, a mamba, a rattlesnake, and they don't know what it is, and they see, oh well, this guy's done it, I can do it then, it's not going to bite me, it might bite me, but they're not going to hurt me. You grab a puff adder or a mamba, bang, you've been hit, now we've got a problem. And now we're getting a bad name to these animals that have been bitten. I mean, there's a guy that I saw in South Africa. He works for he owns a company called Kinyanga Reptiles, and his name's Dr. Donald Stryden, and he works with reptiles. He does captures and release, and he gives us he talks about them. Now, he brought some of his snakes to the reserve I was on when I was doing some work out there. He was showing us about how awesome they are, and we learn about like the movement of how there are different types of movements, and you've got snakes that go in an S shape, you've got snakes that sort of use their ribs to sort of pull them along the ground. And the coolest one was, he was saying like, okay, so here are the misconceptions. A snake's more scared of you than you are of it. So if a snake's coming towards you, he's not necessarily attacking you, it just so happens that a safe area happens between your legs in a little hole that you haven't noticed. I mean, cobras, they rear up because they're trying to show they're big, they're strong, they're scared, but they're trying to protect themselves. And the thing that he was showing us is a little bit interesting. Some may think it's controversial in the fact that he was making them show their defense, but he put his foot in front of this cobra, and the cobra lunged, but it didn't bite. And he was showing that actually, he said, don't do this at home, I know what I'm doing. But he was showing that actually they don't want to bite you, they're just trying to scare you off. And he was doing some mock charges at you. The other example was a puff adder. And he got the puff adder on the ground, and it was curled up, and it just sat there, didn't move. And he goes, this is their hunting technique. They're ambush predators, they wait for their prey to come in, and bang, they hit. Very fast, very quick, very powerful. Now, think of this puff adder is sat there, and you've got a herd of wildebeest coming along, and they're stomping around. He got his stick, and he was stomping it around the snake. And he's saying, look, the snake's not going to move anywhere. It's just going to sit there because it doesn't think it's worth going for. Now, what happens if I put some pressure on the snake? And he put his stick gently on the top of the snake. The snake didn't move, and he goes, again, it's not worth the snake's time to strike, because if he now bites a wildebeest, it may kill the wildebeest, or it may not, but actually, chances are he's now wasted his venom on an animal that he's not even going to be able to eat. So again, it's not worth his time. Now, you grab it and pick it up, now we've got a different kettle of fish. Now he's being attacked. Now he needs to defend himself. And that's the thing that people don't understand is, if you find a snake or something that's dangerous, don't just grab it, let it be. He said more people have died from puff adder bites because they've grabbed it themselves to get rid of it, because they've gone, it's sleepy, it's not moving, it's not going to do anything. They go to grab it, bang, they get hit. That's where the misconception comes from. And it's the same with all these snakes. If you just leave them be, they won't harm you. If you call someone in to remove it, fine. That person's come in, they've done it properly, they've done a good job, they've made sure the snake's safe, they've made sure there's no negatives, and they've moved it on. And that's where I think people need to be educated in these things, and it needs to be educated the right way. Not some guy running around Instagram going, oh guys, look at this snake that I found, and sort of showing it around and throwing it. It's not the best way of doing it. If you can do it respectfully from a distance, and you can sit there and you go, right guys, here I found a black mamba, they're this, they're that, they get their name because of the colour of their mouth, they do this, they do that. Then you make your way a little bit closer. That's where you do things, but you look at the animal's behaviour, you look at all those things, you don't just run in there. And that's how I think you inspire people in a more positive way than inspiring people to do things negatively.
Because I also agree with you in the very same way. Because usually, for example, animal lovers, which especially young ones who are not, for example, you don't have any degree in anything. So they go and catch the animal. It's going to, for them, they say, don't going to hurt the animal, but I'm going to show it to you. But the animal is in this such fear. The mouth is open wide. If we take, for example, of a iguana, the animal is in such fear. But like, for example, an example of a hedgehog, which I recently explained. It was in a desert. Of course, it never had seen humans, because as soon as it seen me, it was running. It ran under the bush, and I just slowly brought it out. It was coaxed in the ball. Then I just touched it. I gave it a little bit of insect, which I had caught before. Then it started playing with me on that time. It started getting friendly. I'm not going to grab it and of course get a bite from it, because, for example, I want to show it to people. And that's what, for example, if we say a person, especially a child or someone goes and catches the iguana bites it. It goes and passes on the rumors that iguanas bite. Wherever you see one, kill them. And that's a very misconception one, because exactly, it's whether flight or fight. Usually animals do the flighting, but if they're trapped in a corner, of course, what can they do? So they, of course, fight, because we're going and annoying them. But not also a very rare case. That's what the main thing is the understanding of the natural world. People, especially children, need to get themselves closer. For example, if you're going to the beach, don't go and just catch and just destroy. For example, starfish especially, they remove one hand, throw it away, they remove another one. But then again, their parents need to say, okay, these are living things. Hold in your hand, or just watch it from a safe distance. Don't go and touch it, because the animals in such fear. Of course, when you, especially like even large animals, even like cats, if you catch them, they're like in such fear. Their mouths are open, they don't know what to do.
I think the key point you say there again is always start from a distance. If you need to pick it up for whatever reason, make sure it's a good reason. It's like again, take it from a person's point of view. If you're sat enjoying your lunch, casually enjoying things, and suddenly some person just comes along and goes, whoop, hello, look you, and picks you up and moves you around, you're going to be a little bit annoyed. You're going to be like, hang on, dude, I'm just trying to enjoy my lunch here. What's going on? Why have you just suddenly picked me up? So it's as you say, it's understanding their behavior and doing it properly. I mean, for me, it's better to let wildlife come to you than you come to it. Because then again, if you're then uncomfortable yourself, you can then stand up and move away, which is your flight. Okay? And it's the same with them. If they're uncomfortable, they'll move away. So before you just sort of shove your hand in and pick something up, enjoy it the way it's meant to be enjoyed, which is from a distance sometimes. And it's the same like rock pooling. I love rock pooling. And I may go in with my net and I may pick up a fish, but I'll pick it up and I'll leave the net sort of in the water with the fish in the net. So, of course, it's not necessarily going to get away, but then I can observe it quickly, I can have a look, see if I can ID it, and then I'll gently release it back into the water. I don't need to pick it up out of the water, pick it up in my hand and do another process. It's not going to benefit me. I can still enjoy it in a closer environment where it is. Again, it's why I love scuba diving. I can see all these cool fish and I can't touch them, but I can enjoy being in the presence of them. It's a different environment, it's a different ecosystem. And I think that's the thing is, I mean, first of all, sometimes good luck catching a lot of these guys, because some of them are stupidly fast. They may look slow and careful to start with, but when they want to go, they go. I mean, I've been out looking at geckos, and I've been sort of sat there watching it, and he's sort of come a bit closer, and I've sneezed. And in the process of sneezing, he's disappeared off to the other side of the room because he got scared. But the speed it took him to get across there was incredible. So yeah, I think that's the one big thing from me. If anyone's to take anything away from this, really, is you don't have to have something in your hand to appreciate it. You can enjoy it just as much from a distance than you ever will in hand. And I think that has more of an impact on people seeing wildlife being natural instead of picking them up and seeing the defense side of things. Because as you say, that iguana opens his mouth and bites you, the rumors go around that all iguanas are bad, all iguanas are grumpy, yet they don't understand the backstory. And again, backstory is very key, and that's where sort of social media can have an effect. Because if people don't understand what's happened before and after the photo or video is taken, their mind can run wild of what's going on. Like my friend put up a video of us being charged by an elephant. Now, okay, the cool part of the video was being charged by the elephant, but the bit he missed out was the beginning bit, which was the elephant being very calm, very relaxed, them actually coming to us, and then suddenly his behavior changed, and that was it. That's when he charged us. So then we backed off, but people just saw the charge. So he got so much hate and abuse of people saying, you just disturb that elephant, you scare that elephant, you've done this, you've done that, and they don't understand it. So that's the one thing I would always say is do your research, look at things from a distance, and if they want to come to you, you can let them. If you're not comfortable, then you can make them move on as they would make you move on. But it's doing things respectfully, it's doing things calmly, and it's enjoying those moments that you get.
Yeah, that's actually correct. I was actually listening to one of my teachers, English teacher, recently, and he said that even in our childhood there was a jungle in India, a very large one. We used to go barefoot in jungle, run around looking for animals, and he said he did that for a very long time. And of course now he's a bit, he's kind of like regretting it, because it's like it's a dangerous thing going in a jungle where there is no point of return if you get lost. But it was like the main importance is that I feel that the animals felt that we are a part of the natural world. They felt that we are the part of the system, despite running, like barefoot around all these areas in all these bushes where we don't know what may exist. We didn't even get a snake bite. We didn't even. Of course, there are many snakes in the rainforest, such as that. Then he said, I never got a snake bite. And then the main thing is, most people, I think that, for example, they same way you say catch the snake and roll it around, is because of show off. For example, I met 2 years ago. There was this person which I met. He was going and pulling in front of all the people. He was going and pulling these huge, beautiful blue blubber jellyfishes out of the water, and it was like going and alive. So he was going and throwing it, catching it again, throwing it, and everything. I'm like, sir, why are you doing this? He said that they sting. I said, of course they sting, but it is a dangerous one. It's going to like harm you. You don't get close to animals who want to sting you. That blue blubber jellyfish you're throwing away is going to be a food for a sea turtle, for example. And then I one by one I said it stings. I took the blue blubber jellyfish, swam and just released it in deeper water. And although I was getting stung, I said, see, I got stung. Nothing happened. But I said, you're going to just catch the animal as foods for something else. Killing a living thing, all for the fear. It's not worth it. Because it's not that good, because we know that sea turtles are running out. They are endangered, vulnerable. Some of them are very close to extinction. And then come on, the blue ball jellyfish can be a food for other animals, and that can help their population, survive.
I think that's where people don't understand is how much of a knock-on effect their one action can make. By as you say, that one blue bottle jellyfish, as you say, is food for something else. People don't understand that. Now, if he was catching it himself to eat himself, that's different in my opinion. Now you're being a hunter-gatherer. Now you're looking after yourself. So you're not just wasting that resource. You're not just going, oh well, because I don't like it, no one else can like it. Well, that's not the point. You may not like it, but then that doesn't give you the right to go over there and go, I don't like it, I'm just gonna chuck it in the bin. It's not gonna help me, it's not gonna affect me. That's not the point. We live in a world where we've got to work together. Everything affects each other. You take out again, so let's take insects for example. If we get rid of all the insects in the world, we'll then get rid of all the crops in the world. We'll then get rid of all the birds in the world. Even though we're just aiming it, and it's a very broad example, but even though we're aiming it at just insects, that knock-on effect is huge. We don't have birds. We don't have pollinators. We have no food. We've got no bird life. Which then, if the bird life goes, the mammals are going to go, and if the mammals go, it has a huge knock-on effect. Now, being that maybe slightly okay will be the sea creatures, and maybe that's it. But rivers will be affected because a lot of fish inverts the insects that come down. So the only ecosystem that may not be affected is sea, but there will be a knock-on effect. There'll be something that happens on land that the sea needs. So now that thing on land stopped, the sea then, so everything, you take out that one thing and everything will be affected, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. In the same park which I mentioned earlier, as me and Zayan went, we went exactly at 2 weeks' time to the same park to again find the rhino beetles, and we were shocked. There was all these bushes over there, near to the walls, and it was a great habitat for Turkish geckos, and they were in huge numbers, large ones. We went there the next 2 weeks. I'm like, what has happened here? They had uprooted all of these. They were all lying on the grass, dead. All the and then you couldn't find one gecko over there, and it was really sad. I said, just see, removing one tree for I don't know whatever reason has remove all these great geckos as well. So it is again important. Farham, to conclude, what do you think that we can do to inspire different people? For example, what can we do to, for example, inspire people to join us in, for example, taking action, join us in, for example, loving animals? What can we do to do that?
I think the most important thing we can do is, one, carry on what we're doing at the moment, and spreading that important message and educating. Because let's say we only affect one person each, and it's your friend that you've got here, and you've inspired him. He then goes out and goes, actually, you know what? Let's have a look under here, and he takes his family with him, and he inspires his sister, who then she gets enjoyed. It's that little knock-on effect, and it's promoting the good messages and helping to educate and phase out the negative stuff. But at the same time, we've got to be careful in the way we do that it's not all preachy. It's not all, because again, as much as fact is black and white, you've got to be careful of how you show that fact, because even facts can sometimes be misconstrued and changed. And sometimes people will tell false information, but you've got to be able to help people identify and make their own decision, because you can't make other people's decisions for them. So that's the one thing that I will say is carry on what we're doing at the moment, carry on promoting and being ambassadors for nature and being at the forefront, being nature warriors, and believing in what we believe in, but also being open-minded to learning from other people and helping to teach other people without forcing them to believe what you do. Because for me, as soon as you start to force someone to do something, you've lost, and I will not understand and agree or believe of what you say. But if you work together nicely and do it in a positive manner, I think that has more of an impact than anything, in my opinion.
I don't know, what do you think as a part of our life cycles, for example, in our lives, what can we do, for example, whether it's reduce plastic, what can we do as individuals, small steps that can help inspire or indeed change what we do to the natural world?
I think as you say, I think maybe you can reduce as best you can, reduce your plastic usage. I mean, the one that I found really interesting is go a month as you are, but every time you get a piece of plastic that you can't recycle and is single use, put it into a bag or a pot and see how much you use at the end of the month, because you'll shock yourself. You can then use that to help cut out things and buy local, buy from your local butcher, greengrocer if you have an opportunity. Try and, instead of buying stuff that's imported from New Zealand or from the UAE, buy your local produce that's seasonal, because that will hopefully help your own wildlife in your back garden, as well as cut down carbon emissions, cut down plastic wastage, all that little stuff. Get out 5 minutes a day. Even plant one flower. That one flower will have a big effect on your local wildlife. Even just look at your own back garden and go, what can I do with this now? For me, you don't have to go global and go big to make a change. Every little thing that you do will have an impact. No matter how great or small it is, that one plant that you've added in has now created a home for thousands of insects and food source for thousands more. That one piece of plastic that you decide, actually, I don't need to use it. That will have an even bigger impact as well. The most sustainable clothing you can buy is the ones you've already bought. The ones you've already got, the most sustainable. So again, look at how you can reduce your buying power. Because if you produce a need for industry to give you that demand, they will keep producing. If you hold back in a sustainable way, that you're not then affecting everything else, and you reduce your consumption, the demand will drop. And if the demand drops, the production will drop, which will then hopefully have an impact on the wildlife. But yeah, that's just my opinion. Everyone else will have different ways of doing things, and everyone else will have different. And for me, there is no right or wrong answer. Every little thing we can do will help.
Now, no, for example, I think I've seen some of the work which I do. What do you think? Is there any improvement, or what do you think that I have done so far? Is it impactful, or what do you think of the total work, for example, which I do?
Oh, everything's impactful. Everything that you do will have an impact, no matter how great or small. As I say, let's say some of the videos that you've made, only one person watches it. I don't know. Let's change that. Out of the videos you made, let's say 100 people have watched it, but only one person's been affected and changed their ways by it. That's one person that's made a big impact. You've made an impact onto. And actually, it doesn't matter if you've impacted billions of people. As long as you can impact someone, you've done a good job in my eyes. And I think that's what you've done well, is you've been able to impact people. I mean, you've impacted me in the fact that you're so young and doing the work you do. I think that's great. I think we now need to promote that to more young people. So you've changed my view on things. And because you've done that, we've now hopefully going to affect more young people. Even if it's just the two of us doing it and we can affect maybe 2 more people. Those 2 more people have now joined us and they can affect 2 more people and it'll build out. So what you've done is amazing and what you do is incredible. So you need to keep doing what you do and keep fighting the good fight.
Yeah, and then I'm amazed at the way you are doing all these wild talks and tournaments to increase wildlife awareness, of course, and that's very amazing. Especially, I'm also participating in some of them, but the last 2 weeks we have got exams, so. But again, amazing.
If you've got any questions, either of you, just drop me a message on Instagram. I mean, it's Adam Talks Wild, so drop me a message and I'll be happy to help out and answer anything I can.
Great, I'm great talking to you today, and it's I think 1:37 here, and I think it'll be 9 around something over there. So for us it's afternoon, and so have a great afternoon from our side, and have a great morning from your side.
Have a great rest of your day, guys. Stay well, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.